Hello students of Class 12 Commerce, welcome back to your Business Studies class. I'm your tutor, Intinaro Amri. Okay, so class, in our previous classes, I have started Unit 1, alright? That is about planning, and I have covered the concept of planning, the features and the importance of planning, alright? So today in our today's class, I will take up the topic limitations of a planning, alright? So the first point here, it talks about planning leads to rigidity, okay? So here the word rigidity means which cannot be changed, all right? Which cannot be changed. So here in an organization, they do planning for a long-term goals, for a long run, all right? So in the middle of the process, if the organization, they wants to change their plan, then it becomes difficult for the organization to rechange it, all right? Because they have already set everything. Everything has been planned properly since they plan it for the long run, right? So if they want to do some changes, it becomes rigid, okay? The second point is planning may not work in a dynamic environment. Okay, so here the word dynamic means something which is strong or firm, all right? So dynamic environment, it is talking about the forces of business environment, of political, legal, social, and technological environment, all right? So these forces are very firm and strong, all right? And they keep on changing their plans. So it becomes difficult for the organization to cope up with this kind of forces, all right? So it becomes a disadvantageous for the organization to cope up, all right? The third point is planning reduces creativity. Okay, so here, if you can recollect it, in our previous class, there was a point called mental exercise, right? So here, the mental exercise was in the advantageous part of it, but here in our limitations, we have the same part, that is creativity, right? So here, this creativity is in the advantage part. Why? Because all the innovative ideas, okay, every creative ideas that pops up, you know, it is only managed by the top authorities, by the top management, all right? And the rest of the employees, okay, they are to obey and implement the plans. That is why it becomes a limitation for the organization. And also, you know, when and the top management, they are focused only on one part of the objectives, all right? So there are plenty of objectives and target to achieve, but the organization, the top authorities, they focus to achieve on only one part of the objectives. So it becomes a disadvantageous for them. The fourth point is it involves huge costs. Okay, so here it is planning will obviously cost a huge amount of capital, because the organization, they plan for a long-term period. Okay, so in order to do planning for the future, they need to sit for, you know, for a meeting, right, along with the authorities, with the employees. You know, they'll have to take some refreshment. There are many miscellaneous capital that occurs when they plan for the future, all right? So it just occurs, you know, huge amount of capital, all right? And it becomes a disadvantage for the organization. The fifth point is time-consuming process. So since, you know, planning is done for the future, it will definitely cost a lot of time. Since a lot of time is being required collecting different kinds of information from different resources, right? In order to do a proper planning for the future, they'll have to collect different informations from different places, and they'll have to collect different resources. So everything consumes a lot of time, because immediate cost of action is not possible since they plan it for a longer period of time, all right? Lastly, does not guarantee success. So here, the organization, they will always learn from their mistakes. Okay, they learn from their mistakes, but sometimes some unforeseen things happen. It occurs in the organization. So when those situation occurs, it is not in the control of the management. So they are, whatever the organization planned, they are not able to achieve 100% success. All right. So those were some of the limitations of a planning. So the next topic is about external limitations of a planning. All right. Here, the word external limitation, it is talking about the limitations which are beyond the control of a management. All right. So there are 6 points mentioned in your textbook. Let's look to it one by one. The first point is technological changes. All right. So we all know how technology functions, right? Technology always keeps on upgrading and updating. So the organization, if they keep on using the old traditional system of technology, then it will be very hard on them to achieve their goals. All right. So when technology keep on upgrading and keep on changing, it becomes a problem for the organization to achieve their goals. The second point is innovation. All right. So here we know that innovation is giving birth to new ideas, right? So new changes in whenever there is a new approaches or new procedures or new equipments in the industry, okay, it definitely affects the planning process. All right, because whenever there is a new changes in the industry, they need to cope up with them, so it becomes difficult for the organization to function smoothly. The third point is change in the government policies. Okay, so here, even when the government policies changes, okay, when they increase their interest rates or inflation rates or whatever rate it is, if the government policies keeps on changing, it also directly affects the planning process. Okay. The other one is change in fashion, taste and preference. So this fashion, taste and preference, it is a seasonal preference of the customers. Okay, and we know that the fashion, the taste preference, it keeps on changing, right? So it affects the time. Okay, it affects the future sale of the planning process. All right. And also the 6th point, act of God. So here, act of God, it means that whenever there is an unforeseen situation arises, okay, example, some earthquakes or floods or famine, those natural calamities are beyond the control of management or beyond the control of human beings, right? So when these unforeseen things occurs, it directly go and hits the planning process. All right, so those were some of the limitations, external limitations of a planning. All right, so class, just in conclusion of these limitations here, as you have read, compared both internal and external limitations, right? But at the same time, we cannot say that planning is a wasteful activity. We cannot mention that, because through planning, planning always provides a base for the future. In the sense, planning always provides the foundation for the future. That is why planning cannot be said as a wasteful activity. All right. So class, we will move on to the next topic, that is the planning process. Okay, in other words, it can be known as steps or process. So in order to achieve, for the organization to achieve some certain goals, they need to follow some certain process. Okay, so we will look to those process one by one. The first point, it talks about setting an objectives. All right, so by now we know that what are an objectives. Objectives are the ones which we need to set a target in order to achieve for the organizational goals, right? So when setting an objectives is all about targeting for the future success. All right. So the first process that the planning need to do is to set an objectives. Okay. Again, the second one, it talks about developing premises. All right. So here, this point is all about, planning is always done keeping in mind for the future, right? And we know that future is uncertain. So the organization must have a backup plan to support it, all right? So they need to have some assumptions, and those assumptions are to have some past policies in order to implement it in the present situation, all right? And those past policies are talking about the policies which have been success in the past, all right? So the organization will always replan it. They'll take the help of the past policies, and they'll replan it for the success of their organization. Okay, that is developing premises. The third point is identifying alternative courses of action. So here, organization must be in a position to give 100% of focus to the business enterprises, all right? So they must find some possible ways and means to expand their business enterprises, all right? There are some examples mentioned. The first one is by expanding the existing capacity, all right? So here it is to upgrade and enlarge their present capacity of the premises. Of their organization, all right? And then the second one is by producing new products. So new products means upgrading, bringing new products in the organization, in the business industries will develop a brighter forms in their organization, all right? The fourth point is evaluating alternative courses. Okay, so here, evaluating means checking and correcting, okay? Checking and correcting the different types of ideas. So when in a planning, there are varieties of ideas that comes, right? So here, this point is all about, collecting and selecting the plans in order to achieve the organizational goals, all right? So all the positive and the negative aspects of the alternative or proposal are evaluated in this process. The fifth point is selecting an alternative. Okay, so here this point 4 and 5, they are again interrelated with one another. Selecting an alternative means there are different kinds of ideas. Okay, there are different kinds of ideas under an organization. So it is all about selecting the best plan, which plan will be more profitable for the organization, in a sense the plans which will bring benefit in your organization, they will select those plans, all right? The sixth point, it talks about implementing the plan. Okay, so once evaluation, selection of the ideas is been done, now the next point, it talks about implementing the plan, means selecting the plan and putting the plan into action, all right? So keeping in mind that the plan that has been selected, the ideas that has been selected brings profit and benefits to the organization, all right? So the last point is the follow-up action, okay? Follow-up action, it is finally checking whether the employees are able to work accordingly or no. The managers here will go and check, okay, whether they are able to perform their duties in an accurate way or no, all right? So follow-up action is all about checking on the workers by the managers, all right? So class, these are some of the points that we have covered under the process of planning. In our next class, we will continue with the other topics. Thank you.